the thing is, I need a producer a lot to like take out my ideas because I have so many. I just like throw spaghetti at the wall. And I'm like, here's more spaghetti. I have more. And you want some sauce? Here's some sauce. And so I noticed, oh, that was a Dave Weber idea to take the banjo out there. And it helps so much.
Welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party, your weekly musical happy hour where musicians pick an album from their back catalog and tell the stories behind their favorite tracks in front of a live online audience.
This week, we talk with singer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist Moira Smiley. We revisit her 2021 album In Our Voices that she recorded with vocal group VOCO. We talk about making songs for the collective lift, learning revenge banjo, and her ongoing exploration of what the human voice can do. So pour a beverage, grab a snack, and kick back as we listen to music together here on the Back Catalog Listening Party, where it's always Friday and old albums never sounded better. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
And welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts.
My name is Anthony Ihrig, the other host.
And today we have joining us Moira Smiley, joining us from her home in Vermont. Hi, Moira.
Hi. Yay!
Channeling those Friday vibes and folks joining the party.
That's right. Connie's first to the party. Hey, Connie.
And Joe drifting down the BCLP evening stream right now through Minneapolis. And Alan joining us from Texas. Hi, Alan.
Hey, Alan.
Chris joining us from Savage, Minnesota, enjoying a beverage in our BCLP liquid holders. That's right. Back Catalog Listening Party pint glass. For those of you in the know, see? Displayed right there by Anthony.
For those watching the YouTube video, I'm displaying the pint glass that we made up for our Patreon community. That's
right. And Christy coming in from Cambridge with a carafe of coconut water. Ooh, that sounds good. Mm. And Moira, are you enjoying any kind of special beverage?
I am. I actually am triple fisting. So the most fancy is this, which is the martini.
Nice.
That's a good looking one too.
And then I'm going to I have water in my actually album themed water bottle.
Nice.
Sing to Know That Love Is Near. And then I'm going to also probably do a little bit of kombucha with a spindrift. I'll make sure to like share the sound of opening this.
Yes, that's all part of the experience.
Yeah, that's right. I love that.
You are very prepared.
Yeah. Yes, I love it. And I, although it doesn't look fancy, I opened up a bottle to get this wine.
Whoa.
It didn't just come from a box, folks. This is special times here. And Anthony, you have something in that pint glass. What do you have?
I'm going with it's the Free Wave Hazy IPA from the Athletic Brewing Company in my Back Catalog Listening Party pint glass. And cheers.
Cheers.
More. Cheers, Ellen. And cheers to all of you out there listening, watching. This is your weekly musical happy hour. We meet here every week here at the Back Catalog Listening Party to listen to old albums from our favorite artists, and it's a conversation. So if you're watching live, we'd love to have you join us in the real-time chat. Let us know where you are. If you're having a happy hour beverage or a snack, it's just more fun when we listen together.
And we love the weather reports as well, because Tony and I live in Minnesota, and what do we love more than talking about the weather? And I will say we had a snow day today. All the Minneapolis public schools were closed because we had a big dumping of snow, which is already kind of melting fast. It's very beautiful though right now. Mm-hmm. And it looks like the report from New Haven, Connecticut, according to Linda, is it's raining, not snowing. So they're getting some warmer temps as well. Is that what you're having, Moira?
Yep, same.
In Vermont.
But it's still like raining on frozen ice.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I'm just glad you don't have to travel anywhere. I know you've been busy touring. I'm glad you're now safely at home and you don't have to go anywhere for this next hour except hang out with us.
I love this. This is the perfect place for me to be.
And it's always 72 and sunny here.
That's right.
The Back Catalog Listening.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we are very excited to have Moira Smiley joining us today. And I love, by the way, Moira, that you have your phonetic spelling on your tag on the video, so folks can say that correctly. But for folks who are maybe less familiar with your music, we were just chatting before I came on here, and I was trying to remember when I first heard your music, and it goes back pretty far.
Yeah.
But for a lot of folks, they might or might not know you, or they might know some projects you've worked with. So maybe you could give a little 2-minute origin story of where you grew up and how you fell into making this music.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to say, Ellen, I think I may have met you at a folk alliance. I started going to folk alliances like when I was 19 or 20.
Mm.
And at that time, I was just leading groups of vocalists. And also I was really into Irish music. So I would go to a folk alliance with my vocal group. And that time it was Vida. And we were based in the Midwest, proudly. And then it was other vocal groups. I had one called VOCO, and then I would also go to sessions. So I'm sure I met you at one of these.
Yeah, probably.
The very first vocal lines I went to, I hitchhiked to.
Do you remember what city it was in?
It was in Memphis, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a great thing. I haven't gone for a while, but that was I think how we got connected.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that got me into music was being, I'm from Vermont. I classically trained, which took me up through music school, which was in Indiana, playing piano, classical piano. And, but also singing folk music was a big part of my upbringing, just from like lefty circles and the Back to the Land movement and all those types of people really celebrating folk music and community dance and music and that kind of stuff. So I was in that whole realm, which really celebrated both, how folk music can be, you know, the millennia's top 40, but also how it keeps on being pertinent to now. So, so you're encouraged, lightly encouraged to keep it going, and respect it, but you can do your thing with it. And then I didn't become a songwriter. I mean, I always was writing songs since I was a kid, but I didn't sort of take myself seriously at all in that way until quite late, like 10 years ago, 2016. And then at the same time, sort of, I have a kind of a double life. One is as a performer, mostly in the folk genres, a little bit classical, and then as a composer. And I run a publishing business for music, that people read music and get it from me. So I'm kind of known in this other world, which is mostly choral music and chamber music. So yeah, and that's kind of what brings me to you today. I guess I've worked with some people that I deeply respect and are leading lights in various genres. And I just recently did Chris Thiele's concerto for extroverted mandolinist and orchestra, and
which is such a great name.
Oh my God, it's a crazy, wonderful piece. And so I just did that. I just recorded for Laurie Anderson for her latest piece, just called Arc. I just got off tour with Solace. So I'm all over the place, but that's the way I like it.
You mentioned getting into songwriting a little later in your kind of musical journey. Was there a spark? Was there something that clicked, or was it something that had been building up? Where did that come from?
It's a good question. Spark or building up? Probably building up. And I've always been the person that gets other people to sing. And I love making other people's voices, like almost like amplifying other people's voices with my voice. And I love that. Yeah, I love harmony. Like I'm a harmony whore is what I call myself. I just want more. But I have always had that impulse to write songs. And so it was after I was touring for a couple of years with Tune Yards, and she was working on that project and being her backup singer and percussive person, and working on my friend Billy Child's reimagining of Laura Nero.
Mm.
There were these Meryl Garbus and Laura Nero were like these two women that gave no fucks. I hope I can say that, but
You can.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and just did this really dense, interesting music that deeply inspired me and is the kind of music I want to do. And so it kind of made me urgently want to make something and follow through with doing something on my own. So yeah.
Cool.
Wonderful. Well, the project that you picked to feature on tonight's show is In Our Voices. It came out in 2021. So since you've started songwriting, this was one you did with your vocal group VOCO. Is there anything you want to say about this project before we dive in?
Oh, this was a project that was like a return for me because Unzip the Horizon in 2016 was kind of the first songwriting solo album. And then I wanted to do more with voices again. And I was finding myself asked by this choral community, hey, can we do that song that you did on that solo album? Can we do that? Can you arrange it for us? And I was happy to do that. And so I found myself reimagining a lot of the same songs. So actually those two albums share some songs, but they're really completely different arrangements. And so also what happened in recording this is that we did a tour at the very start of 2020, this group of 5 people. And we ended up in Mobile, Alabama, and we made the record at the end of the tour. And that was on March 11 and 12 and 13.
Oh, boy.
Of 2020.
Yeah, of 2020. And we were stuck in New Orleans trying to figure out how to get people back to Canada and me back, And so, yeah, it was all shutting down at that time. And so it was a potent memory for us to have had those days together when our lives were just like shutting down, that we were together making this music. And then Black Lives Matter happened and this whole kind of uprising. And so then I decided to add more songs to it to sort of meet the moment. And that's kind of what you hear, and why I think it was February 2021 when we made it.
Awesome. Well, cool. I can't wait to dig into this record with you. The first track you picked to feature is Sing About It. Is there anything you want to say about the track, or do you want to just dive in?
I think let's just dive in. I guess I'll just say it's about empathy and forgetting empathy because and this kind of has a sense of various groups of people that are saying, hold on, we're not getting treated well here. And it's getting one's self to listen in a deeper way and understand the system that you're part of rather than acting defensively.
All right, let's give it a listen. This is Sing About It from Moira Smiley here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
It's so sad. It's so sad. We don't understand each other yet. How can this be when we've been living together so long and so close to each other's beauty? It's so sad, makes me feel so bad. I can't stand by anymore. you before I raise my hand, so you can call on me to make a stand, make a stand, make a stand. Am I responsible? Are you responsible? What are we responsible for? Am I responsible? Are you responsible? What are we responsible for? Gonna sing about it, 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 sing about it.
All right.
Yeah.
Great way to kick off this hour of music. That was Moira Smiley and VOCO with Sing About It from their 2021 album In Our Voices, which we are revisiting today with Moira joining us from her home in Burlington, or in the Burlington area in Vermont. And
Wow.
man.
Yeah.
And is that all a cappella?
Yes, it's a cappella and body percussion. Yeah.
Wow. I thought maybe I'd share a picture for those who are watching. This is the group that you're singing with. Is this the correct? The images here of everybody, so powerful, and like you were saying earlier about folk music being pertinent, and
Yeah.
here I was something I really needed to hear tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and maybe you could talk about each of the folks for folks who are just listening to the podcast, who the members of VOCO are that are featured on this record.
Yeah. Okay. So on the left side of this picture is an amazing Canadian singer, Dawn Pemberton, and based in Vancouver. The woman next to her, Carla Mundy, also based in Vancouver. They've been best friends for a long time. And I met them when I came to Vancouver, I think because Carla brought me there to work with her choir. Both of them have choirs. And then Jake Asaro is the tenor in the middle. Beautiful soul, Long Beach based, California. And then at the time, Gregory, who is on the right, was also Long Beach based. He's still in the LA area. I met both of them through an amazing group called Tonality, and they do very social media or social justice. They have to do social media too, but social justice programs of vocal music. And they were both singing in that at the time. So we got together, just a couple weeks before we went on tour to just put ourselves together. Yeah. And this was the moment that we wrapped the album down in Mobile, Alabama at Dauphin Street Studios, which was a great place to work.
Oh, in March of 2020.
Yes. On the day that everything shut down, March 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, the nice thing is you were stuck with some pretty amazing voices and people to make music with, which is which I know is hard on a lot of artists who were more isolated during that time. So 5 voices and body percussion. Was that all recorded live, or did you do extra tracks? How did you go about recording it?
A little bit of both. I make all my albums, or have done most of my albums, with a producer engineer in Indiana. He's called David Weber, and his studio is called Airtime. I met him when I was in school there in Bloomington, Indiana. So I took the tracks that we recorded and I kind of sat on them for a bit while things were going crazy across 2020. And then we made most of the record in sessions that were remote. And yes, I did add some tracks. Like, for instance, Days of War, I decided that I wanted to collaborate with Sam Amidon. And so we brought him in way after that initial recording. I also did some things with Oh Susannah, which I had been performing with Dawn, or Dawn had been performing with us, but I hadn't made a banjo part to her. performing it yet, and I created a banjo part for this album. So yeah, it was a little bit of both.
Mhm.
It was quite a fraught time, you know. So I remember also trying to figure out how to produce an album remotely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, before we came on here, we were talking a little bit about that. Like so many artists, we all had to learn how to do stuff online, and the platform we use to do these live shows is one that a lot of artists used during COVID times
Yeah.
to connect with people, and that's how we discovered it. But it is funny that a lot of folks since then are like, "Oh yeah, I have to remind myself how to do this." But we had to learn really quickly how to use all these different
Yeah.
tools.
Yeah. Which is connecting in a certain way. I shudder to think what I would have been without Zoom.
Yeah.
I'm in really rural Vermont. So just picture my road is fairly busy, but my house is next to 4 acres of woods and a mountain. And then a river is right across from me. I'm actually living on the same river as my mother,
Oh,
who's downriver, about 6 miles. So, it's rural, and I mean, during the pandemic, we gardened, we did, all kinds of domestic product projects, and, and then Zoom. That was it.
Hey, humans will find a way to connect,
Yeah.
and that's what this show's all about. Actually,
That's
is
true.
we're in different parts of the country, and there's people from all over the world that tune in. But when we listen together, something magic happens.
Yeah.
that's right. And I also think it's cool that this project you're working on, I mean, one of the things that a lot of musicians lamented, especially folks who were like sang in choirs, really miss
Mhm.
that togetherness, because that was one of the most COVID spreading things you could do
Yeah,
was
Oh my God.
singing with other
There's
people.
like
And you were just
scientific papers, like whatever you do, don't sing
don't
together.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. And
Exactly.
so I would imagine, especially if you were like used to singing with this group, that finding a way to connect with them, even if you couldn't all be together, would be really special.
It would.
Joe had a question, and he asked if you'd ever crossed paths with Linda Tillery of the
Oh,
Oakland
yeah.
area. And yeah, she has a great vocal group. And he
Yeah.
said you communicate with a similar message with a similar kind of soul as she.
Oh,
And
thanks, Joe. Yeah, I for sure do. And actually, when I first moved out to California to sing with the Kitka vocal ensemble, we did some shows and traveled with Linda
Mm.
and with her group that included also the great Melanie Demore, who also took me in when I first moved to Oakland and was my host for the first couple weeks that I was out there trying to find a place to rent. So, yeah, close.
Excellent. Wonderful. And are there any other kind of vocal inspirations in particular? I mean, I'm sure there's many, but
I mean, yeah. I I just feel that the voice, because I grew up with these traditions of using the voice a cappella in harmony, often uh my taste was way more sparse than everybody around me that was doing stuff with instruments. I mean, I was an instrumentalist too, but I got really into that vocal sound. And some folk traditions have voices doing a whole different thing than songwriters do, which is like singing that accompanies something happening in life, like a ritual, um, like that the song and the reason for singing is different than entertaining or even telling a story. So for me, any singer that calls in these other ways of singing and these other reasons for singing are really cool and
Mhm.
exciting to me. Recently, there's a pop artist named Aurora from Norway, and I find her music so inspiring.
Mhm.
Of course, I also find Bjork inspiring, and um, yeah, singers that kind of push the limits of what we call normal singing. I
Mhm.
really love.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, folks are loving the music. Alinda says, had commented during the last song, so much going on here.
Yeah.
And there is. And then Chris
Density.
and then Chris asked about instruments do you play? Because you referenced the banjo. What other instruments do you play? I know in addition to voice. You mentioned piano.
I'll be sister banjo in this little configuration.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So yeah, I grew up playing piano, pretty intense little pianist, and then took up cello as my second instrument in my teens. And then I got stood up at a gig in LA by my banjo player. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to learn the banjo.
It's like revenge banjo.
Yeah. Revenge banjo. Yep. And then that's pretty much, and then I play the accordion sort of as an extension of that piano. And I was doing a lot of that when I was working with the Lomax project and the Folk Life project. So I was carting around the banjo and the accordion for several years of touring.
Well, that'll boost your strength up right there.
Yeah. And you gotta be bulletproof against the jokes when you have both a banjo and an accordion. I'm pretty sure that's a punchline of at least one of them. But
I am a walking punchline.
Hey there, would you like to be part of the live show? Well, become a member of the Back Catalog Listening Party Patreon, and you'll get a backstage pass to weekly online tapings where you can ask the artist questions and participate in the live chat with a fun community of like-minded music nerds. You'll also get a first look at upcoming guests and receive invitations to special live streams and private after parties. So join the party today at patreon.com/Back Catalog Listening Party.
Well, I think we want to hear more music.
Absolutely.
Because this is definitely what I love this. Jocelyn just wrote Revenge Joe. I love that. I'm totally going to use that.
That's awesome.
So the next track that you picked to feature from this record we're talking about today is Days of War. And you briefly mentioned this. Is there anything else you want to say before we dive in?
Yeah, well, you hear this being sung between a human and a bird. In this case, I'm the bird. And Sam Amadon, my friend who's from Vermont originally. Yeah, there he is. He just released an album. And he sings the part of the human who's asking a bird, how do you continue to sing when there's so much noise and war and division and no one listens to each other? So how do you go across to enemy lines, or where you go across the lines to see? And the human asks, how is it? And how do you keep going? And do you see a place where we can meet and find some commonality? So, yeah. And I co-wrote the music with Seamus Egan. And this image right here, this is by my friend Joe Phillips' daughter. And they are, beautiful artists. And I exchanged voice lessons, giving them voice lessons in exchange for them making this animated video.
That's amazing. So for those of you who are just listening to the podcast version, we're looking at a really, really beautiful kind of animated GIF image of a bird. And it's a beautiful backstory about this song. And, like we said earlier in the podcast, these songs are still very pertinent. And we're going to give it a spin right now. This is Moira Smiley, Days of War, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Sit with me, birdie, in the tall tree. The news is bad and there's no relief. How do you fly to the enemy and sing your song so tenderly? These days of war.
When I fly to the enemy
down.
Oh, yes, sometimes I fly in fear, and I sing so softly so you cannot hear. But I sometimes see your meeting ground beneath the smoke and the battle sounds.
These days of war, these days of war. Oh, little bird, why do you fly away and leave me alone in this silent day? And how do you sing in these days of war, where no one listens anymore?
Well, I fly because I must carry on, to love, to feed, to make my home. And I sing to know that love is near, because anger holds the hand of fear. Yeah, I sing to know that love is near, because anger holds the hand of fear. I sing to know that love is near. Oh, courage, take the hand of fear. In these days of war, in these days of these days of
Moira Smiley and VOCO with Days of War. Oh, those birds.
Yeah.
Oh, love
Hmm,
that.
Wow.
Ah,
Let's see. I guess I also needed that one
Yeah.
this week.
I know. It's like a
Well, it's very,
cathartic.
very therapeutic. I love the idea too of the interplay between the bird and the human. Like Joe says, perfection, beautiful, and Connie says, what a beautiful song. And yes,
And I
have-
also love the interplay as well between not just the voices of the two main voices and then the vocals behind it, but also the banjo and the voices and how they,
Yeah.
it's interesting too. It goes against everything you expect, where the banjos during a lot of the quieter moments and the bigger moments are like the vocals kind of
I
taking
know.
over.
Thank you for noticing that. I had forgotten that we take out the banjo sometimes and just let the voices do it. And yeah, and then the thing is, I need a producer a lot to like take out my ideas because I have so many. I just like throw spaghetti at the wall. And I'm like, here's more spaghetti. I have more. And you want some sauce? Here's some sauce. And so I noticed, oh, that was a Dave Weber idea to take the banjo out there, and it helps so much. I also have a funny story also about ideas. So this says, sing to know that love is near. And then the album features these 5 wolves, and sing to know that love is near is what Days of War. Yeah, there they are. That's the line from that song. And I just found this, or not just, but we produced some mugs, and I found this in my local thrift store. And it was the most embarrassing thing. I was like, oh, there it is on the shelf. I was like, I took it down. I was like, I'm going to buy this back.
So, but
Somebody
did
did
you
love it.
did you call your mom and say, "Mom, why did you get rid
Yeah,
of my
right.
mug?"
It was my mom. I never asked her.
Oh, I love that. So that might be
Right?
is that the only mug of those still around, the one that you have in possession?
It might be because, I did that thing where you get a company to just make it and send it.
Mm.
So
Oh, sure.
I never saw, I forget, it's a fulfillment company. And so this is the only one I ever saw. But a
Well, it was
lot of
meant to
them
be.
got made, but yeah, anyway.
It was meant to come back home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I made another mug that I have so far not found in a thrift store. But
Now,
yeah,
are
so
you a visual artist as well? Were those your wolves or dogs or
no, that
no?
is, thank you for asking. This is a still from the video that was made. And also these wolves are a still from the video made from Sing About It.
Okay.
And we'll make sure
Uh-huh.
to, if you go to the show notes, you'll see links to the videos and see this artwork. Who was the designer or video
Yeah. So
brain?
Christine Bana is the animator who made the music video for Sing About It. And she worked so hard on it. And I think it's a beautiful video. She does rotoscoping
Hmm.
of all of us.
Oh,
And
cool.
which is a very time consuming process. And then the wolves are kind of interspersed with the rotoscoped singing of each of the five of us.
Wow.
Cool.
Well, this is beautiful music, and I can only imagine with the visuals as well that it's even more moving. We do want to mention that since you were talking about merch, Moira, that this album, as good as it sounds, however you're listening, whether it's in earbuds or on your phone or wherever, it's going to sound even better if you get the high res files. So either you download the digital files, or even better, you can buy a CD copy at moirasmiley.com, and you can get that visual art as well. That component, get all those wolves.
And are you sending those from your house, Maura?
I am. Yep.
So maybe Maura would be even kind enough to put a signature on it if you asked. So
Yep.
these albums are very special, like the mugs that that Maura never saw. They really are a limited item now, and if you're a music lover, an audiophile, and you really want to support an artist like Maura, then that purchase of a CD goes a real long way to let them know how much you appreciate it, and they actually get real money for it too, versus the streaming stuff. So head on over to moirasmiley.com.
That's right. And we're going to try and get to as much music as we can. And we want to remind folks who are joining us for the live chat today to throw in any comments or questions as we go today, so we can get to as many as we can. And David just wanted to comment to say, really appreciating the way Maura is introducing these songs with such thorough context. No pressure, but this next song is Refugee. Is there anything you want to say about it? And it's okay if the answer is no.
Song. Yeah. I have nothing to say.
Those were all the context I'm going to get.
I was in refugee camps for over the course of 3 summers and volunteering, and it changed my life, of course. And this was a love song I wrote from the experience of being in the first of those, which was called the Calais Jungle. It was just on the edge of France, right about, this was in the refugee crisis in Europe. That was in 2016. Of course, there are more displaced people in the world than ever. So this is just a story of love and friendship and empathy that, life is fragile for all of us.
This is Moira Smiley, Refugee, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Refugee, 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 refugee. In your world, I'm a refugee. In your world, danger all around me, all around me, all around me. In your world, I'm a Bring me shelter, I will not harm you, I would shelter you. I am only what you are. I am only what you are. I am only what you are. What you are. What you are. Imagine your unbreakable world was broken. No more rules to protect you. Imagine your unbreakable world was broken. No more rules to protect you. Who was I? 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 In my world, I was standing strong. In my world, my heart did belong, and now it's gone. There is only longing, only longing, only longing. Bring me shelter, I will not harm you. Bring me shelter, please. Bring me shelter, I will not harm you. I would shelter you. And I am only what you are. I am only what you are. I am only what you are. What you are. What you are. And I am only what you are. I am only what you are. I am only what you are. What you are. What you are. Imagine your unbreakable world was broken. No more rules to protect you. Imagine your unbreakable world was broken. No more rules to protect you. Imagine your unbreakable world was broken. No more rules to protect you. Refugee, 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 refugee.
Oh, wow. I learned my
Nice.
lesson from the last track and didn't start talking right away. And I guess I'm going to have to listen to this record in its entirety in order because I'll be curious to see how
that
these
must have led right
sounds.
into another track, didn't it?
Yep. Yep.
And
Yeah.
was that audio that you captured something that you captured when you were there, or is that something you recreated later in the studio?
I recreated that one. Yeah, I wish I could say the first time I recorded Refugee, I have drum sounds from the Calais refugee camp, and I went to London to record one of the drummers I met there, who, yeah, I recorded in somebody's living room, in London. So there was a much more kind of like tied in with the camp in that first recording on Unzip the Horizon.
Well, it's a beautiful and powerful song. And yeah, I'm guessing it sounded like, it's always hard to tell, but it sounded like there was some other percussion sounds, not just voices on that one, right?
Yeah. And I think we treated those drums a little bit like, I think Dave put echo on that, or like delay. So you could hear like across. And I think we realized that in combining a vocal album that was like really very dense vocals with the body percussion, and then having a few instrumental things, we needed to find this common ground between instruments and voices and percussion. And we found that like some things with delay, and we actually, I think, increased and enhanced the bass of the steps sometimes. And then I asked a drummer here in Vermont to play in his studio to sort of back up some of the tracks.
Nice. It's recorded so well. If you're out there
Oh.
listening and you're not listening on headphones or good speakers,
Get some.
yeah, make sure you
Mm.
give this another spin with it, because man, it sounds so good, and and you can hear, like, especially that bass voice.
He is
I
he is
mean, it's
amazing.
so powerful. It's like you can feel it vibrating
Mhm.
through your ears.
Seriously. He is an extraordinary musician. And Gregory Fletcher, check him out if you can.
Mm.
So good.
This is so great to get so many of these songs. And as Alinda says, still so timely today. And that's how I'm feeling about every track on this record,
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah.
It's always a weird thing when you write music of the responding to a moment and you discover kind of it's a weird feeling to be like, oh, it's still resonant, and then you're like, oh, it's still resonant. Like,
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
always hope that the songs won't become
I know.
relevant anymore. But
I
while
think
they
that
are, it's good to have them with us.
it's
So
true. And I'm about to teach a songwriting class this coming weekend and 2 weekends from now online. And it's called Songs for the Collective Lift. And I was thinking about how I don't write very many love songs, but I write songs that are for us to sing together, to like give us strength when things aren't great. And and in a way, I guess there's always going to be human suffering. um I mean, I'm not laughing at that. It's just sometimes I feel like a love song is kind of eternal, and maybe writing about human suffering is going to be eternal. So,
Mhm.
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. And Joni just chimed in to say, just going to say, there's so many ways to be a refugee, which I think is true. That a
Yeah.
lot of folks, even if they haven't physically had to flee their country, they recognize that feeling of being alone or
Yes. Exiled.
torn apart from your family. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Again, very relevant. We're gonna get to at least one more song here. The time is going way too
Yes,
fast.
it
But
really
before
is.
we do, I do want to take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters. These are the folks that have kept this show going since about the same time you made this record, March of 2020.
Yeah.
We started gathering here and connecting with our musician friends to revisit old records. And thanks to these folks, we're still able to do it and bring it to more listeners via the
Hey.
podcast. And we're so grateful for these folks for supporting the show and joining us for the live tapings. And if you want to become a part of the live tapings and ask these questions live, then and interact with our guests, then you can join our Patreon like these folks have: Penny, Anna, Linda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Becky, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Matt, Steve, Mark, Homestead Pick and Parlor, Severin, Lynn, Mary, Nikki, Joni, David, CJ, Wiley, Stephanie, Christy, Diane, Hetty, Sandy, Neighbor Ann, BZ, Alyssa, and maybe you. If you would like to join us, you can go to patreon.com/back catalog listening party. You can even sign up just for the free level, just to get notifications of who's coming up on the podcast that week and all of that. But if you pay at any level, you can get invited to our live tapings and also get a Back Catalog Listening Party pint glass while supplies last. They're
That's
going
right.
fast, folks.
They are. And it really is. It really is y'all that make it so special, coming in and asking your questions and making your comments. It really is. It's remarkable how just a little bit of that human interaction during these online sessions can kind of transport you into a room together.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And Moira, did you want to listen to Oh Susannah or Bello next?
I was thinking Oh Susannah, although can I just say something about Bello?
Mm-hmm.
And that is that Bello was written about a trip I took to learn songs in Ukraine. And so it's about not losing that connection to the powerful voice, your voice that can protest, your voice that can mourn, your voice that can join with other voices and become stronger. So I just wanted to put that into this ether that we're sharing, because I so appreciate this space. And Bello is about that kind of keeping that voice strong and sending it to Ukraine, which was a place that really inspired me and inspired my voice.
Very good. And that's another reason to get this album. So you can, if you're not hearing it on today's podcast, you can listen to it right on that, on the CD or the digital tracks that you can get from Moira's website.
Exactly.
That's right. The Back Catalog Listening Party is brought to you by EFS Publicity. Founded by veteran publicist, promoter, DJ, and musician Ellen Stanley, EFS brings an artist's perspective to the table, working to help clients get to the next level in their career. Services include national and international media campaigns, radio promotions, tour press, crowdfunding, grant writing, and more. Get a quote or set up a consultation today at efspublicity.com. So this track is Oh Susannah, and I know many folks probably know the Stephen Foster tune. Is there anything you want to say about this?
So this is a version that Don Pemberton, the singer who you'll hear, learned from Ruthie Foster. No relation to Stephen Foster.
Right. Oh, no. Ruthie Foster, an amazing singer-songwriter from Texas. Really great. Yeah.
Yes. And then she was inspired, I think, by hearing KJ Denhart play this version and decided to do it also. And then, so that's the lineage: KJ Denhart, Ruthie Foster, Don Pemberton. And then Don was playing it with piano on our tour. And then I made a banjo part to go with it. I also want to say there's a video that we made, Jacob Blumberg made with images from a Library of Congress video taken in Georgia. It's called Palmer Street. And it's really moving images of a Black neighborhood and village in the 1940s, I think. So, yeah.
Well, fantastic. We'll make sure to link to that in the show notes. This is going to be an action-packed show notes, folks. BackCatalogListeningParty.com. Yeah, it's. I can't wait to check out all the videos, and you can find out all of that at our website. But for now, we're going to close out our hour with Moira Smiley and Oh Susannah here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
From Alabama, this old banjo on my knee. I'm headed toward Louisiana for my true love to see. It rained all night the day we left. The weather was bone dry. The sun so hot I nearly froze myself. Susannah, don't you cry. Susannah, don't you cry for me, 'cause I come from Alabama with this old banjo on my knee. I had a dream other night when everything was still. I dreamt I saw my sweet Susannah, coming down the hill. A buckwheat cake was in her mouth, and a tear was in her eye. I'm coming home from the south, Susannah, don't you cry. Oh, Susannah, don't you cry for me, 'cause I come from Alabama, with this old banjo, this old banjo, this old banjo on my knee. This old banjo on my knee.
Right.
Wow.
Moira Smiley with and VOCO with Oh Susannah. And I love that treatment of that tune because I've always also thought that the tune lyrically is one of the sadder songs, and yet it's often done as this like jaunty way. And you're like, it's really a lament, you know?
Yeah.
And I think you've really captured that in a really
Mm.
beautiful way. And Joni says that snare almost like a military beat.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
You know, that's this drummer, doom, 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 doom.
Mhm.
You know, that's JT Bates. He's a
Oh, Minneapolis. We know JT.
He's a crowd favorite here
Yeah.
at the Bad Catalog. Boy, does he do a good job. And that drone throughout the tune. Can you just speak briefly about that and its
That's
use
a
in the
synth.
song?
Yeah, that's a synth. Well, you hear actually me just going bing, 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 bing on the banjo. So I did a track of that. But then also you hear this just synths pads that I've created from a few different sounds. Or like there's some samples in there and then a synth.
That must have been what I was hearing, but it just created this kind of this tension.
Yeah.
That was everything else kind of played around it. You know, we heard it
Yeah.
at the very end. It was really, beautiful treatment. And our friend Chris chimed in to say, thank you for another inspirational show. Great job. And we want to thank you, Moira, for spending this hour with us today. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really, really great stuff. And I before folks go, I want to make sure they know that you are very busy, if that wasn't already clear from all the projects you've been involved in. But you are touring behind your new record, and you're playing all over US, UK, Europe, and touring with Solus as well. Is there anything you want to spotlight in particular, or should they just go to your website to check it all out?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Okay, moirasmiley.com and get the new record. Get this record we've been revisiting today. Check out the merch, all the stuff at moirasmiley.com because we want to support artists like Moira and this soul healing, lifting music because I needed this bad. This is the
every week we
I
say,
needed.
this is what we needed this week, but in particular this week, I needed to hear this record, Moira. Thank you so much for singing about it.
Yeah.
We needed that.
Yeah, it's feeling like even more human condition-y than normal this week.
Yes.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. I admire what you're doing so much and loved hanging out with you.
Awesome. Well,
Likewise.
hopefully we'll get to hang out again soon. And until then, I hope you all have a wonderful music-filled week. And we'll be back next week with another edition of the Back Catalog Listening Party with another great guest. But Moira, thank you so much for this. This is really special.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And until next week, keep singing about it.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
Thanks for joining us on the Back Catalog Listening Party. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review, which helps more people discover our show and our guests.
And do you want to be a part of the live show, get a first look at upcoming guests, and receive invites to private online parties and live streams? Then join our Patreon community at backcataloglisteningparty.com.
Have a great week. We'll see you back here next Friday for another edition of the Back Catalog Listening Party.